Tyler Brennan's dashboard camera captured the exact moment visibility dropped to 0. 1 second, tail lights ahead. The next, absolute white. The 28-year-old software engineer had driven this route dozens of times, commuting between his apartment in Rochester and his parents' home in Erie. He knew lake effect snow. He had grown up with it. But this was different. Weather reports had called for flurries, light accumulation. What descended on that 60-mile stretch of highway was a meteorological ambush that would trap 47 vehicles and claim 3 lives before sunrise. Tyler's voice on the recording is calm at first. Okay, that's not good. He reduces speed, hazards on, following protocol. Then, the impact, a semi-truck jackknifed across 2 lanes, invisible until his headlights caught the trailer at 30 feet. He swerves right. He overcorrects. The Honda Civic spins once, twice, before slamming backwards into the guardrail. The camera keeps recording. Shows him trying the door, but it won't open. The frame is bent. Temperature inside the car is 34 degrees and dropping. Outside, it is -12 with wind chill. His phone shows 1 bar, then none. The storm had taken the cell towers. What Tyler didn't know was that 60 yards behind him, Sarah Chen had just pulled her 8-year-old daughter from the overturned SUV. Or that ahead, in a minivan crushed between 2 tractor trailers, a man named Marcus Webb was bleeding out from a severed femoral artery, his wife screaming into a dead phone. The whiteout had transformed the highway into a graveyard of twisted metal and trapped people. And in conditions like this, with roads closed in every direction and ambulances unable to reach them, survival wasn't about luck. It was about time, and they were running out. Tyler used a snow brush to clear the exhaust pipe, then started the engine. Carbon monoxide kills quickly in confined spaces. He had run the heat for 10 minutes, then shut it off for 20. Standard winter survival. He had a quarter tank of gas, maybe 6 hours if he rationed it. His winter emergency kit was in the trunk, unreachable with the rear crumped against the rail. He had his work laptop, a half-empty water bottle, and a protein bar in his messenger bag. The contents of an ordinary Tuesday, now the difference between life and death. Through the rear window, he could see shapes moving in the white. Other survivors. Someone was shouting and the words stolen by wind. Tyler tried his door again. Still jammed. He climbed into the back seat. Tried those doors again. The driver's side rear opened 6 inches before hitting the guardrail. This is not enough. The passenger side was blocked by the spinning and the impact angle. He was entombed in his own car, with the temperature in the car dropping 2 degrees every cycle. In the SUV behind him, Sarah had gotten her daughter Emma into the car's footwell, wrapping her in a yoga mat and a beach towel from their weekend bag. Amateur insulation was all she had. Emma was crying, asking about her iPad, about going home, about why mommy looked scared, and Sarah lied. She said help was coming soon, that everything would be fine, but she had seen the accident ahead of Tyler's car, seen the way the emergency vehicles couldn't get through. Through her cracked windshield, she saw a New York State trooper trying to reach them on foot, only to be driven back by the wind. The officer's voice, barely audible over the howl. "Stay in your vehicles, we are coming!" But they weren't. They couldn't. The storm had closed a 15-mile section of highway in both directions, with multiple pileups. First responders were triaging remotely, using whatever information they could get from the few people with working phones. Marcus Webb wasn't answering anymore. His wife Jennifer had stopped screaming. She was applying pressure to the wound with her scarf, watching her husband's face go grey in the dome light, knowing that even if the ambulance arrived right now, it would be too late. Tyler's gas gauge touched empty. He shut off the engine for the last time. The cold came immediately, not gradual but aggressive, predatory even. Within 20 minutes, his breath was fogging in clouds. Within 40, his fingers were stiff. He put his hands under his armpits, curled into a ball on the back seat. Hypothermia kills in stages. First, the shivering, your body's desperate attempt to generate heat. Then, the confusion, the fatal decisions. People in late-stage hypothermia have been found undressed in the snow, their brains misfiring so badly they felt burning hot instead of freezing cold. It is called paradoxical undressing, and it's often the last thing they do. Tyler wasn't there yet, but he was sliding. His thoughts were getting loose, unconnected. He found himself thinking about his apartment, the thermostat he had left at 68, about the pizza place on his corner that made perfect garlic knots. Stupid things, comfort things, his brain trying to protect him from the reality that he might die on a highway 6 miles from a Denny's and a Target. Behind him, Sarah had made a decision. She couldn't stay in the SUV. Emma's lips were turning blue despite the layers. Despite Sarah holding her daughter against her own body, the vehicle's heat had bled out completely. They needed shelter, and the only option was the semi-truck she could barely see through the snow. She bundled Emma in everything they had, tied the beach towel around her like a cape, and kicked out the windshield with her hiking boots. The glass was already spiderwebbed from the rollover it gave on the third kick. The distance to the truck was maybe 40 feet. In a blizzard with zero visibility, it might as well have been 40 miles. Sarah picked up her daughter and ran, head down, following the dark shape of the trailer. Her boot caught on something. She stumbled, nearly dropped Emma. She kept going, found the truck's passenger door, locked. She pounded on it, screaming, nothing. Moved to the rear of the trailer, also locked. She was circling back toward the cab when the driver arrived, a bear of a man in a Carhartt jacket, his face barely visible behind a frost-covered beard. "Get in!" he shouted. "Now!" His name was Dale Pritchard, 56 years old and 30 years on the road, hauling refrigerated goods from Chicago to Boston. He had been stuck for 4 hours, had a full tank, a sleeping berth, and enough experience to know the storm was a killer. Sarah and Emma climbed into the cab, shaking so hard their teeth chattered in sync. Dale had the heat running full blast. He had blankets, had a first aid kit, and a case of water in the sleeper. He also had a CB radio that crackled with other stranded truckers, sharing information the official channels weren't broadcasting. "There is a man in that Honda," Sarah said, pointing back toward Tyler's car, "and people in the minivan up ahead. They need help." Dale looked at her. "Storm's supposed to break in 2 hours. Emergency services will get through then." "That man in the minivan doesn't have 2 hours." Dale knew she was right. He had heard Jennifer Webb's voice on the CB 20 minutes ago, begging for anyone who had medical training. Then silence. The kind of silence that meant decisions had been made by biology and physics, not by hope. He pulled on his coat, grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight and a pry bar, told Sarah to keep Emma warm and to lock the doors behind him. The wind outside was a living thing, trying to push him off his feet, to blind him, to erase him. He made it to Tyler's car, shone the light through the window. The kid inside was curled up, not moving. Dale pounded on the glass. Tyler's eyes opened slowly, confused. Dale shouted for him to unlock the doors, but nothing happened. The kid was too far gone to process simple commands. Dale went to work with the pry bar on the passenger side rear door. The one Tyler had gotten opened 6 inches. Metal screamed against metal. The door gave another foot. That was enough. Dale reached in, grabbed Tyler by the jacket and hurried him into the storm. Getting him to the truck took 3 minutes that felt like 30. Tyler couldn't walk, couldn't help himself. Dale was essentially carrying dead weight through waist-high drift. By the time they reached the semi, Sarah had the door open, had blankets ready. They got Tyler into the sleeper berth, wrapped him up, started the painful process of warming him slowly, too fast and the shock could stop his heart. "The minivan," Sarah said again. Dale shook his head. "I will check, but I'm not promising anything." Jennifer Webb was sitting in the driver's seat when Dale found the minivan, her husband's body in the back, covered with her coat. She looked at Dale with eyes that had gone somewhere beyond grief. Marcus had died 40 minutes earlier. She had felt him go, felt the moment his hand went slack in hers. She had stayed with him because living felt like abandonment, because moving meant accepting that the man she had been married to for 14 years was gone, that their kids staying with her mother in Syracuse would grow up without without their father. Dale didn't try to comfort her with words. He just opened the door and helped her out. She left Marcus there. She had to. The alternative was worse. They made their way back to the semi, Jennifer moving mechanically, her body on autopilot, while her mind processed the impossible. Inside the truck, they were now 6. Dale in the driver's seat monitoring the CB, Sarah and Emma in the passenger seat, Tyler and Jennifer in the sleeper berth, both wrapped in blankets but in different stages of shock. The temperature outside had hit a -18. The storm showed no signs of breaking. On the CB, a woman's voice crackled through. "This is Officer Ramirez, New York State Police. If anyone can hear this, we have confirmation that Route 20 is open heading south. If you can safely make it off the highway at exit 57. Emergency shelter is set up at Hamburg High School. Repeat, Hamburg High School has heat, medical personnel and food. Exit 57 to Route 20 south." Dale looked at his GPS. Exit 57 was 2 miles ahead. 2 miles that might as well have been on another planet. "Can we make it?" Sarah asked. Dale considered the question. His rig was built for this. Heavy enough not to blow over, powerful enough to push through the drifts, but visibility was 0. The road could be ice. There could be more accidents blocking the way. It was a gamble with 5 other lives. "We can try," he said, "or we can wait for the storm to break." Tyler's voice weak from the back. "How many people died waiting?" And that settled it. Dale put the semi in gear. The engine's growl swallowed immediately by the wind. He moved at 5 miles per hour, following the ghost of the road's edge, using the rumble strips as a guide. Every 50 feet was a new crisis, a drift that required momentum to push through, a patch of black ice that sent the trailer sliding, an abandoned car that appeared in the headlights with no warning, forcing Dale to swerve and pray the weight distribution didn't flip them. Sarah held Emma tight, whispering that they were almost there, almost safe. Emma had stopped crying, had gone quiet in the way children do when they sense their parents' fear and swallow their own. Tyler sat behind Dale's seat, watching the speedometer tick forward with agonizing slowness. Jennifer stared at nothing, her mind still in that minivan with her husband's body cooling in the back. Mile 1 took 23 minutes. Dale's hands were locked on the wheel, his shoulders knotted with tension. The CB chattered with other drivers attempting the same escape. Some making it, others turning back. One voice called through, panicked. "Jackknifed at the exit ramp, blocking both lanes. I repeat, exit 57 is blocked." Sarah looked at Dale. "What do we do?" "We get close enough to walk." "In this? With a child? You got a better idea? I'm open to it." She didn't. None of them did. So they kept moving, the semi grinding forward through the white, until Dale saw the green sign for exit 57 emerging from the storm. And beyond it, just as the CB had warned, a jackknifed truck blocking the ramp completely. Dale pulled the semi as close as he could, maybe 50 yards from the exit. "This is it. We go on foot from here." They bundled up in everything they had. Dale took Emma on his back, the child's arm wrapped around his neck. Sarah and Jennifer linked arms, creating a human chain. Tyler brought up the rear, still weak but moving. The distance to the high school once they got off the highway was half a mile. In normal conditions, a 10-minute walk. A -18 degrees with 50-mile-per-hour winds. It was an expedition. They climbed over the jackknifed trailer, helped each other down the other side. The exit ramp was buried under 3 feet of snow. They waded through it, Dale breaking trail, the others following in his wake. Emma was crying again, her face buried in Dale's shoulder. Sarah was counting steps using the technique from a meditation app she had once downloaded. 1 breath, 1 step. Don't think about the destination, just the next step. Jennifer fell twice. The second time she didn't get up right away, just sat there in the snow, looking back toward the highway, toward where Marcus was. Sarah grabbed her arm. "We have to move, now. I can't leave him there. He's gone, you're not. Move." It was harsh, but it worked. Jennifer stood, kept walking. They reached Route 20, found it clearer, plowed recently, followed it south, the lights of the high school appearing like a mirage through the snow. Closer, closer. A figure emerged from the building, running toward them. A paramedic in a neon vest shouted into a radio, calling for help. They stumbled into the school's lobby, into warmth so sudden and complete It felt like violence. Blankets appeared, hot chocolate, medical personnel checking vitals, asking questions. Emma was whisked away to the classroom, converted into a children's area. Volunteers entertaining the kids while their parents were evaluated. Tyler was taken to the nurse's office, treated for moderate hypothermia. Jennifer was led to a quiet corner, given privacy, giving space to call her mother and say the words she had been dreading. Sarah found Dale an hour later, sitting in the cafeteria with a cup of coffee, staring at nothing. She sat next to him, didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she finally said, "You saved us." Dale shook his head. "I just drove a truck." "You did more than that." He shrugged, uncomfortable with gratitude. "Is your daughter okay?" "She is watching Frozen with 15 other kids, hasn't mentioned the crash once." I mean, kids are resilient until they are not. Sarah looked at him. "Does your family know you're safe?" "I texted my daughter as soon as we got inside. She's in Seattle. Told her I had been late with the delivery." They sat in silence, two strangers bound by survival. Outside, the storm was finally breaking, the wind dying, the snow tapering to flurries. Plows were moving on Route 20. Emergency crews were finally reaching the pileup on 190. Marcus Webb's body would be recovered in 4 hours. 15 other people from that stretch of highway would be treated for exposure, frostbite, and injuries. 3 others had died before help arrived, frozen in their vehicles while waiting for rescue that came too late. Tyler Brennan returned to 190 for the first time since the incident, drove the same route, watched the mile markers tick past. Exit 57 looked ordinary in daylight, no trace of the chaos that had unfolded there. He had been interviewed by local news, asked about the experience, about what he had learned. He had given the standard answers about preparedness, about keeping emergency supplies, about respecting the weather. What he didn't tell them was that he still had nightmares, that he woke up some nights convinced he was back in that car, watching his breath fog in the dome light, feeling the cold sink into his bones. Sarah Chen had nightmares too, different ones. In hers, she couldn't find the truck. She and Emma wandered in the white forever, the shapes around them never quite resolving into salvation. She had started seeing a therapist, walking through what the professionals called post-traumatic stress. Emma seemed fine, had processed the experience with the emotional plasticity of childhood. But Sarah knew it was in there somewhere, waiting to surface in ways they couldn't predict. Jennifer Webb sold the house in Syracuse, couldn't stay in the place she had shared with Marcus, couldn't drive past the high school gym where they had had their wedding reception, couldn't exist in a space so saturated with memory. She moved to North Carolina to be near her sister, started over at 43, her kids confused and grieving, asking when daddy was coming back, until they finally, slowly, stopped asking. Though Pritchard kept driving, turned down the media request. The people who wanted to call him a hero, he had just done what needed doing, same as he had done 1,000 times in 30 years on the road. But he thought about them sometimes, about the kid in the Honda, the woman and her daughter, the widow who had lost everything in the whiteout, wondered if they thought about him, if they remembered his face or just the truck, the warmth, the temporary sanctuary. The Buffalo storm wasn't an anomaly, it was a preview. Winter 2024 brought similar events across the northern United States and Canada. January saw a pileup in Michigan that trapped 89 vehicles. February brought a blizzard to the Dakotas that stranded an entire town for 3 days. March delivered an ice storm to New England that knocked out power to 400,000 homes, some for more than a week. Meteorologists pointed to shifting jet stream patterns, to warming Arctic temperatures, paradoxically creating more extreme winter weather events in temperate zones. The science was complex, the results are straightforward. Winter was becoming more dangerous, not less. The storms were more intense, more sudden, more deadly. Emergency management agencies updated protocols. New York State installed additional weather stations along 190, implemented faster highway closure procedures. But protocols don't stop storms. They don't prevent people from being caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. They don't save everyone. The Department of Transportation released a report in November 2024 analyzing the February 2023 Buffalo pileup, identified failures in communication, in weather prediction accuracy, in emergency response coordination, made 16 recommendations. secured funding for 8 of them. The families of the 4 people who died received settlement, acknowledgement of systemic failures. The family of the 4 people who died received settlement, acknowledgement of systemic failures, apologies from officials who hadn't been there, who hadn't felt the cold, who went home to warm houses after the press conferences. The anniversary passed quietly. Tyler marked it by donating to a winter emergency preparedness non-profit. Sarah took Emma to a memorial service at Hamburg High School, where a plaque now honored Marcus Webb and the 3 others who had died. Jennifer didn't attend, couldn't make herself return to New York, to the place where her life had been divided into before and after. Dale Pritchard was on 190 that day, hauling another load. He passed exit 57 without slowing, without marking the date, without ceremony. But he was carrying something new in his cab, a box of emergency supplies purchased with his own money, ready to share with anyone who needed them. Blankets, hand warmers, protein bars, water, the tools of survival prepared for the next time. Because there would be a next time. There always was. The National Weather Service forecasts another severe winter ahead. Lake effect snow warnings are already being issued for Buffalo and surrounding areas. The same highways will fill with the same commuters, making the same everyday journeys. Most will arrive safely. Most will never know how close they came to being trapped, to being tested, to discovering whether they had what it took to survive. But some will find out. Some will face the whiteout, the cold, the isolation. And when they do, they will make the same calculations Tyler, Sarah, Jennifer, and Dale made. They will decide whether to stay or go, whether to help or hide, whether to give up or keep fighting. These decisions made in extremity reveal who are beneath the ordinary. They show us our limits and occasionally our capacity to exceed them. The storm is always coming. The question is whether we'll be ready when it arrives. If you enjoyed listening to this story, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. More stories coming on this channel.